We're talking about streaming. We're talking about streaming the quarterbacks to win your leagues. And that show is going to start right now. Welcome back. It's Bob's Three-Toed Warriors with Word on the Streets, Season 1, Episode 35. And today we're talking about streaming the quarterbacks. It's a big thing that a lot of people like to do. Some people like to go late. Some people like to go early. We're going to talk about it, how it can help your team be stronger, help you can win your league. But maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't understand it. I don't know. Today I have David from the Full 10-Yard Fantasy Podcast here to help me out and kind of break it down for us. How's it going, David? What's a good word?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on. And it's the first time I've ever been on a podcast based in America. So really pleased to be here. I was listening to your last show with Chris Robin, who is a friend of ours over at the Full 10 Yards, just about how the different communities exist in different parts of the globe and stuff. So I think it's perfect timing to have somebody from the UK on your podcast to show our fantasy knowledge.
Yeah, Chris is a good guy. He was on Monday show you're listening to. We're recording Thursday show here on Monday, and we broke down some players that we were planting our flags on. So if you didn't catch that show, go ahead and listen to it. I am at Bob's Three-Toed Warriors on the Twitter. On YouTube, it's Bob's Three-Toed Warriors, and you can also do the Word on the Streets Fantasy Football League page on Facebook. So where can everybody find you? You got a couple different places to be found and things going on. So
so here at the Full 10 Yards, we've got a few branches. We cover college football, we cover fantasy football, the NFL. We even cover Britball, which is the amateur British American football leagues, which I'm lucky enough to play in. So you can find us at F10Y Fantasy, and the main page is at Full 10 Yards.
Love it. So lots of good stuff going on there. If you go on the website, great looking website, lots of good information. Definitely check it out. Give the man a subscribe. Also give my show a subscribe. Subscribe to everybody. Give us a follow, give us love, give us a like. My shows are currently Monday and Thursday. The live stream starting this week, which you found out 2 days ago if you're listening to it now, was on Tuesday, and the replay will still be on Saturday for you. And on here, this will mess you up too. If you haven't heard it yet, you will hear it on Thursday's show. There will be some big breaking news. So I was working on some stuff for that. Almost late for my own show because of it. So, all right. That's kind of some of the key pieces there. Let's get into streaming quarterbacks. What's that mean to you, David? What is this? What streaming quarterbacks? What is that? I've heard of people say it in the world, but I don't know what it means. What's it mean?
So streaming quarterbacks, it's when your guy hasn't fallen to you in the draft, the guy that you perhaps wanted to win your fantasy football championship, and just at certain points you've fallen in love with a running back or a wide receiver, and you find yourself towards the end of the draft, and you've picked a guy who you know he's going to have some good weeks. He's going to have some weeks where he throws the ball, he gets you 30 fantasy points, but then you know that there's going to be other weeks where he's got a particularly tough matchup and he's not going to do the job. So you're going to look to the waiver wire on a weekly basis, and you're going to look for those guys that will have some good games, will have some not so good games, and particularly the ones that have got the good matchup in the upcoming week. You're going to look to pick them up off your waiver wire, and they could only be on your roster for 1-2 weeks before they go straight back onto the waiver wire, just to do the job, just to maximize the number of points that you could get for your fantasy football team.
That's a great explanation there. Is there any time you would say that you would, and we're not going to talk player specific, maybe we're talking more league specific. Is there any time that you would find it advantageous or particularly maybe disadvantageous to go into your draft thinking I'm going to stream? If I've worded that right there for you.
So for me particularly, it's if you've got through the first, 10 rounds of the draft and you've had to go running back or wide receiver, particularly if you're in a dynasty league where you've traded away some of those higher picks well, obviously you wouldn't be having a full draft in a dynasty league, but perhaps in a redraft league where you've traded away some of those higher picks and you've had to go for the big names at running back and wide receiver to fill those spots there. So that's when I would recommend, because you're not going to want to invest a higher pick in the quarterback there. So that's when you'd look to do the streaming options there. Definitely, if you traded away some of those higher premium picks.
I think pre-show you said you had a certain higher picked guy, earlier draft round guy that you were kind of targeting, and if you missed him, then you were heading towards streaming. Who was that guy?
Yeah, so Dak Prescott for me this year, I think he was phenomenal last year. Obviously, just teetering on the 5,000-yard mark. He's not had his contract sorted, so he's going to have to play for that contract again this year. He's going to play. He's definitely going to be out there with a chip on his shoulder. Dak Prescott is one of those guys that has got the rushing upside. Of course, they've got Ezekiel Elliott there, who is going to keep the defenses true, because very often we automatically assume that because they've got a good running back, that means that the passing game falls down. But in Dallas this year, we're going to have both, because Zeke is going to keep the defenses true. And of course, they brought in CD Lamb, who I don't even think anybody in the Cowboys organization thought that they were going to get him, where they got him in the draft. And he would not have been in their draft strategy at all. But they just saw him such a talented player to play opposite Amari Cooper that they had to bring him in. And they've got this thing. They want to get their three wide receivers, the three guys there, Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb. They want to get them all 1,000 yards. And that's becoming a thing in Dallas. And for it to do that, that means Dak Prescott is going to have thrown the ball a lot of times, and he's going to be airing it out. And they're going to want to keep Zeke fresh for the playoffs as well. So what defenses come the last few weeks of the season, going into the playoffs, if you've got a healthy, fired up Ezekiel Elliott, because you've not limited his carries throughout the first few weeks of the season, but you've been sensible with him, then of course you're going to be scared. So Dak Prescott for me, he's my quarterback 2 on the year, only 5 points behind Patrick Mahomes.
Wow.
And you're getting him at a much better value than Patrick Mahomes, because Mahomes, everybody's QB number one, so you're having to spend that high draft capital. So for me, Dak Prescott, you get him a few rounds later, maybe the 6th round, and he will only score 5 points less. But if you don't get him in that round, if you're in need of a wide receiver at that point, so you have to go wide receiver, that's when we would deploy the streaming category. And for me, the most important thing about streaming is you do still draft a quarterback. I will draft a quarterback, but there are options like Gardner Minshew, who I think he'll be a top 15, 16 quarterback this year. He's another player that has got the rushing upside. Jacksonville are going to have some very negative game scripts all year. He is just going to be throwing that ball here, there, and everywhere. Yep. And Minshew, he's not somebody that I'm going to feel bad about dropping mid-season if all of a sudden he falls off a cliff.
Yeah, someone else elevates.
I couldn't even tell you who the backup is there, to be honest. But
no, I couldn't.
It's for an injury, COVID, like you mentioned earlier in the show, particularly this year, there is that real possibility that a guy misses a few weeks because of COVID. And with Dak Prescott, if he was to get COVID, he would sit on your bench for a few weeks, because you've invested that draft capital that you can't afford to drop him. Whereas Gardner Minshew, if he was to miss a few weeks, you wouldn't feel too bad about dropping him, because you didn't invest the draft capital. And that's when you can really look to some streaming options to take the place.
Yeah, I buy that. So example for me is 2 different drafts, similar but different keeper drafts I did this week. And one of them, I saw Drew Brees sitting there kind of a round or so late, and I took him because the value was good. He should be in a high-flying offense, playing a lot of high-flying, high-scoring teams. It should be fun. Doesn't give you the rushing upside of a Dak or anything like that, but I also didn't have to pay up as high as I did for a Dak. So I took him, and I was content letting that be my only quarterback. And then people started taking 2 and 3 quarterbacks, and I said, well, I won't be able to stream even if I want to. So I grabbed, I think it was Gardner Minshew or someone like very, very, very late. I don't even remember who it was. So I did grab a second quarterback there. The other league where I drafted, quarterbacks were sitting, chilling. Most people just took 1. Some people took 2. So in that one, I don't even remember who, but it was a good streamer guy to me. Might have been Josh Allen maybe or something like that, who has some nice rushing upside. And I figured, okay, it's late. double-digit rounds. I stacked up on wide receiver, running backs early. And in this league, people aren't doubling up, tripling up on quarterbacks. So it makes streaming an actual option in the season. Because in the other one, what's really going to happen is bye weeks come along. That's when you probably have to stream anyway. And people are just going to start cutting these second and third quarterbacks they took to pick up an extra running back or tight end or wide receiver that gets hurt or has a bye week. So quarterbacks will fall back on to the waiver wire, but I didn't want to chance it. So that's one thing you got to look out for when you're on going in with a strategy. You got to watch that board, be flexible, and say, okay, I'm going to be able to stream or I'm not. And even if you're not going to be able to stream, take two guys with opposite bye weeks who both look like they have good potential, and one of them definitely has a good opening potential for the first 3 or 4 weeks. I think it's the key thing you want to target when you're looking at streaming a guy that you can count on. A lot of people like Daniel Jones, but he allegedly has a little rougher start to the season. Okay, maybe you take him and pair him with someone who has a better start to the season. You flip them around. You got to look out for that kind of thing. I think it's a little extra tipsy there for people in the streaming world. So, but one of the reasons you said earlier why you do it, because you want to get that extra running back, that higher wide receiver in the earlier rounds. Pulled up a little stat online here, and I've heard it on other shows, and I wanted to pull up the exact number, at least real quickly, to see if it was true or just somebody had made up, because, most stats are made up in this world. 40 different quarterbacks had a top 12 finish last season.
Wow.
40. I don't know how Europe League is, but if you guys are playing the same thing we're playing, we only have 32 teams. Yeah. And 40 quarterbacks had a top 12 weekly finish in 2019, and there's only 32 teams. That means there's a lot of opportunity, but means you have to pay attention. That's another thing that goes back to the would you do it? Well, I pay attention in my leagues. I'm fine doing it. My wife, she's going to grab Mahomes, which she has, and she's going to start him every week. And on the bye week, she's going to go, fine, I'll go look for a player and go find a quarterback to fill in for that week and move back, to Mahomes and cut that guy after that week. So if you don't like to pay attention to your quarterbacks or even your tight ends, because it's a very similar world in tight ends, except you don't get the same quality of depth in tight end, where you have to pay attention and stream, look for good matchups, things like that. Streaming is not for you. You're just going to get annoyed, aggravated, or you might fall in love with it and find out you like doing a little research and digging into it a little deeper, and it might turn you into a whole new person. So,
Yeah, and I think something really interesting here is we've got a couple of teams that have got rookie QBs. Particularly, I'm looking at the Dolphins and the Chargers this year, where it's projected that Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert will take over at some point in the season. They are not the projected starters on either of those teams, particularly because we've had no preseason for them to get used to the NFL. I think there's obviously no doubt that Joe Burrow is going to be the guy in Cincinnati from day one, which in my opinion, he could be the streamer option because it's going to take him a few weeks to get used to the league. I'm certainly not taking him in any drafts because I believe that I'll be able to get him on the waiver wire after week 4, maybe after he started to settle into the league a little bit. So we've got to think Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're not guys that are screaming out to me that I want to draft, but they're going to be only valued for a number of weeks in the season. This goes back to what you were just saying, how we've got to keep an eye. We've got to see what the rumors are coming out of these teams as to when these guys are going to be taken over, and ultimately, I'm going to be picking those guys up on their first week just to see how they do. And if they're terrible, they can go straight away again. But if they're all of a sudden playing like the top 10 picks that they were, then all of a sudden we've got a stud quarterback for free mid-season, which in this league with COVID and injuries as they are is brilliant. That's what we need to be looking out for.
Absolutely. Some people are like, I want to take Lamar Jackson early. He's probably going to go in the second round, maybe the third if you're lucky, but probably in that mid to late second round, and maybe even early in the second round. Just really depends on your league and what type of players you have in it. So Lamar Jackson, people will say he's a quarterback and a running back all in one.
Yeah.
That sounds really sexy. So last year he was a late round quarterback. He's the kind of guy that you want to snag, have him blow up like your Minshew, right? You want to have him, put him out there, and then, oh man, he blows up. He has a great rushing year. He has a great passing year, et cetera, et cetera. And he is that 2-on-1 guy. Next year, when he's expensive, like this year, go find the next Lamar. And here's what I mean by that. He's 2-on-1, right? Quarterback and running back all in one. He was the 6th best rusher. That is phenomenal. Also, probably not repeatable. Also, dangerous for your quarterback. So, but it's fantastic. That is great to get the 6th best rusher. And if you're taking a guy in the first, maybe second round, you need to get the 6th best rusher out of him, right? And he's such he's not the biggest guy either. So you don't want him taking too many licks. But he was where'd it go? Where'd my little stat go? He had less passing yards than Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, I just leaned into it. He had less passing yards than Kyle Allen. Oh, and he played 3 more games than Kyle Allen and still had less passing yards than Kyle Allen. So, yeah, he was a quarterback and running back all in one. But other than a game or two, he did not ball out as a quarterback. So, Trubisky, you can draft that guy or not draft him. Kyle Allen, he wasn't drafted last year. So what are you really – yeah, you're getting an undrafted quarterback, a streaming level quarterback that you play the matchup for the games. You were really buying him for the legs. He's the outlier in the scenario, though. When you look at the other guys who are in the top 2, top 3, top 4, they don't give you that same huge rushing advantage. They'll give you 300, 400, 500 on a good season, maybe 600 yards rushing. That is not a top running back. That's just a quarterback with good legs. So, hey, got good legs. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Lamar. I got another stat for us here I find kind of interesting. So you said earlier you don't want to sacrifice top talent. You didn't say these exact words, but top talent running back or wide receiver to position. And the reason for that, and you probably agree with this, you have to start multiple wide receivers, multiple running backs. You don't have to start multiple quarterbacks unless you're in a super flex, unless you're in a 2-quarterback league. And in those leagues, it gets a lot harder to stream quarterbacks because they're usually gone. I'm in the middle of a slow draft. It's a 14-team draft, makes it even worse. But all the backups are starting to pop off the board at this point. So starters have been gone for a while. So it's hard to stream in those kind of leagues. We're talking about 1-quarterback leagues. So, again, you got to know your settings, you got to know your league. But let's say you want to draft Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. So they're going 19 and 20 off the board. Sanders and Drake, Sanders took a little fall from grace this week with the injury scares, are going 21 and 22 in draft order. Okay?
Okay.
So Mahomes, 346 points. Lamar, 379 points. I just took this stuff off of Fantasy Pros or something like that. Sanders, 232. Drake, 234. Everybody, write these numbers down. Just kidding. All right, so who are you going to pair them up with? Well, if you're streaming your quarterback, you're probably going around the 10th round, grabbing a quarterback. Once the main guys are gone, everybody's kind of got there. The quarterback ones are gone. Top 12 are gone. You might even go later. But if you're just not waiting forever, you don't want to wait forever, you can get Goff at 144. That's the 10th round, or 114, excuse me, and you get Burrow at 115. So that's the middle of the 10th round. They're each scoring about 260, 258 in points. You can also get Cohen and Coleman. Cohen, 112. He's going to get 121 points. Coleman at 116. Going to get 131 points. So those are the two. They're just paired up. Those are the running backs that you could draft at the same time you would draft your streaming quarterback. So you know what you're sacrificing here, right? So if you grab the early quarterback and go with the late running back, the late running back, you're either going to put in as your flex or not start at all, or bye week fill in. So it's not going to be a top starter for you in the 10th round. That's for damn sure. Then you're going to get on average 449 points between your two players. I just added the 4 together divided by 2. Pick which two you want, whatever. So about 450 points if you go with the late quarterback and the better running back that you are actually going to start, and you're going to start the quarterbacks, you're actually going to use both of these damn players, 492 points on average, about 50 points more. Kind of a little fun exercise.
Yeah.
And you're actually getting two players you can use all the time. So just a little fun with numbers there.
Yeah, and you've completely proved the point there. And Jared Goff is a player that I actually did a little bit of looking into for the purpose of this episode. And he's in the 3 years that he's been the main guy there in LA, he's finished as the quarterback 12 in 2017, the quarterback 7 in 2018, and the quarterback 13 in 2019. So that is 3 years where he has had at least a top 13 finish. And this year, I've got him ranked as my quarterback 15, but you're not going to think that 14 guys above him play 16 games, which automatically bumps him up into those realms again. So you're getting a quarterback one. Well, obviously it's a one quarterback league, so you're getting a guy that is very serviceable, and the drop off between him and the top 3 guys, like you mentioned, is a lot less than what it would be between Sanders and Tariq Cohen. So I think that just goes to prove your point, and that's why I'm looking to perhaps get Dak in the mid rounds, not the early rounds, not the rounds 2, 3, like where Mahomes and Jackson are going, because again, we're getting a drop off in rounds, but we're still getting the fantasy points in my projections a few rounds later. So it's all about value for me, and I will look at that each round, and I won't take a guy because I want him. I'll take a guy because he's good value at where he's at. I'll maybe reach a couple of places for a guy, of course, but I'm not going to be going into the top couple of rounds for a quarterback when I'm sure I can get value at the position a little bit later on. And if it means I have to stream, I have to stream, and I've got no problems doing that.
Awesome. So you brought up one player. Already, we've kind of mentioned a few players. Before we dig deeper into the players, I want to mention one other thing. If you are the type of guy who likes to stream and you don't have deep rosters and you're only taking one quarterback and one tight end and loading up on running backs and wide receivers otherwise, because you need those to start 2 or 3 plus a flex of those players. I know people say, you trade, your roster is going to change. But to be safe, I personally intentionally don't take a quarterback and a tight end with the same bye week when I'm planning to stream both. Yeah, that means I have to cut more players. You can't just roll over that extra 1 spot. Now you're rolling 2 spots and you're cutting players off your team on a shallow roster. Like a basic Yahoo league usually only has like 5 bench spots. And one of those you're going to rotate for your streaming quarterback tight end. Well, now if you're rotating 2 of those, now you've only got 3 guys you can count on as your backup players, and you're kind of selling yourself a little short, basically. So just want to throw that note in there for those who are actually taking notes and want an extra bonus tip. Bob's bonus tip. Oh shit! Just found us. I write this down. That's a little thing.
A drop for next week. Yeah.
Bonus tip. Yeah, that's what she said. All right. So let's go back and forth talking about a few players that we do like, and a couple guys. Let's start with one, and we both, I think, already mentioned him. So we'll just say him, but we won't go in detail on him. You said you like to target early Dak Prescott because you like his outlook for this season. I said Breeze because I like his outlook for this season. How early will you jump in on Dak, and how late will you play chicken with him before someone else snags him?
Oh.
Very similar question, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I'll take him here. I'll go right now. I don't care. I'll go right now, or I'll just play the game and wait. So that's what I'm getting at there.
Yeah. So just having a look now. I'm not going to draft him in the first 4 rounds. I'm going to have to wait until. No, I am. I'm going to draft him in round 4. That's the earliest I'm going to go for him because, like we say, we've seen Mahomes and we've seen Jackson go in rounds 2, maybe rounds 3 if you can, and they typically start a quarterback run. If you see those 2 go, players panic and think, right, well, I've got to get my quarterback now, and that's when you see a run. So round 4 is probably the round where I'm going to be like, Yeah, I'm lucky that he's not gone in the third there, so that's where I take it. Particularly the back end of the fourth, if I'm extremely lucky. But no, fourth round was where I'll pull the trigger on Dak, and then the opposite side of the ball.
Well, no, that was the question. It's all about Dak, so we won't hit into the streamers yet. I don't think you'll get him past the fourth. I don't think you can play chicken with him, can you? In the fourth, I can't see him dropping to the fifth or sixth.
No, and I can't either. Like you say, it's as soon as the train leaves the station with the quarterbacks, then we will see the run very quickly. So I don't think I'm getting him past the fourth. But
yeah, that's one of those ones where you don't have a big window.
Yeah,
you don't. All right, so my guy is Breeze, and I won't take. I just don't like taking a quarterback unless something really crazy happens. One of the really early guys fall late. But I'll take Breeze in the sixth. For me, it feels gross grabbing a quarterback that early because I love streaming quarterbacks and taking the players. But by the sixth round, I've got 2 running backs. I've got 2 wide receivers and then one more of one of those 2 in general. So if he's there on the sixth, I'm probably just going to take it depending on what the league's done. But because I don't mind streaming, I will play chicken with him till the seventh. And if I'm still feeling bold, if he's there in the eighth, there's no question about it. I'm going to snag him. I don't see him sitting there to the eighth. I barely see him sitting to the seventh. And the sixth feels a safe spot for him, but feels like I'm still getting enough value without harming my team. I just love his matchups, man. He's playing the Chiefs this year. They're putting up points. He's in a division that loves to put up points with the Falcons. And,
Yeah, and people will look at his age. They'll look at they'll say, "Oh, he's not got the arm he used to have," but they've not got the receivers in the room that warrants a big arm. They've got Michael Thomas, who is king of the slant route, and all Breeze has to do is throw it 5 yards in front of him, and Thomas will do the rest.
He's got my boy from the Broncos, Sanders.
Well, I'm a 49ers fan, so I loved Emmanuel Sanders for the time that he was there as well. And it's without doubt the best wide receiver 2 that Breeze has had on the roster for years and years and years. They've got Jared Cook there, who was a very serviceable tight end. They absolutely love Adam Troutman, the guy they've brought in. And we're going to have a healthy Alvin Kamara. I think that's the most underrated thing about the guy. Last year, he battled through his ankle sprain. And if we can get fully healthy Alvin Kamara this year, he's going to be in the conversation for that number 1 spot. He's not going to get it. We've got too much talent in Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley there, but I think he's certainly got a shot at that number 3 running back spot this year. And is it crazy to say he could do the 1,000 and 1,000 like McCaffrey did last year? I don't think so.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and pop into these streamers that we like. And we'll just we'll go back and forth, popping a few streamers in there that people can target on their teams. I'll let my guests go first.
Thank you. So for me, a guy I like for streaming this year would be Nick Foles. I think he's going to win out the quarterback battle in Chicago this year. Chicago, I think. They're in a tough division for starters. I think they are going to be playing from behind in a few games. So if we can get some favourable matchups for a former Super Bowl MVP, but he could easily put up 25 points in some of his favourable matchups, which is what we want to see from our quarterback. So Nick Foles, it's not a sexy pick. It's not one that we're going to feel great about putting him in that starting lineup, but he's going to come in. Allen Robinson, I think, is going to have a monster year, whoever's throwing to him. And Nick Foles for me, particularly if Trubisky could well be named the starter. So, of course, Foles is going to get dropped in a lot of leagues. And that's when Foles does get the job at some point throughout the season. That's when you can start to pick Foles up on the streaming options.
And I was just about to tie into that question, which thank you for getting to it. So, so you're not saying to draft Foles.
No.
You're saying to mark him on your cheat sheet for later when you're looking for guys that you do want to stream when he has the good matchups. Unless he's named a starter and he starts out with a good matchup for the first week or two. We haven't found that information out yet, so we don't know. But if they come out tomorrow or Trubisky gets hurt and in practice enough that sidelines him for a few, into the early part of the season, then you would possibly considering if streaming him or drafting him if the matchup was right. But don't draft him is what he's saying, because right now he's not named the starter. So don't waste a bench spot unless, I don't know why you'd say unless 2 and 3 quarterbacks are all getting taken per team. And then you want to take that chance. But with him not starting, I could see the risk, but I could definitely see the potential for him too. Nice pick. All right. So mine, I'm going to call barely a streamer. It's Matt Stafford. He is the 13th quarterback off the board, so it's almost cheating. But he's so disrespected. You can get him in the 9th round. And if he doesn't pan out for you, you didn't spend a ton of money, although I really like double digits for streaming because I don't feel as guilty about cutting a guy. But in the 9th round, I'm drafting bench players at this point. I've already filled my lineup up. I may or may not have my tight end, but I definitely have stacked roughly 4 running backs and wide receivers. So I've got some depth already filled out there, and I can look to say, okay, if the price is right, let me get Stafford in there. The man was on pace to be devastating to other teams last year, and we're hoping he's back, healthy, ready to go, because my Galladay needs it. So we shall see. We shall see what happens there. So that's almost a steal. It's almost a cheap little steal. A little too high, but definitely a guy that you can play and like. I won't be as lofty on my next ones.
Yeah, and Stafford, he is my top quarterback that hasn't got that rushing upside. So I'm a big believer in rushing upside with quarterbacks, and Stafford. Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at my rankings now, and he's not prolific on the ground, but he's got some great options there. And like you say, Kenny Golladay, he was phenomenal last year with some of the quarterbacks that were thrown to him. If he can do that with them, then David Blau, we've got to think what can he do with Stafford. And Stafford was on pace for a massive quarterback finish, massive fantasy finish last year at the quarterback position. So the value that you're getting him in rounds, and if it doesn't work, like you say, you've not invested much. So I couldn't agree more with that one. Even though I think you are teetering on the streaming options there.
Yeah, it was it's my own show. I can make up the rules. All right. I'll kick it back to you for a real, actual, better streamer in the streaming sense. Go for it.
And for me, the next one up is Baker Mayfield. So Baker, he started out in the league well. He didn't.
Hold on. Time out. Baker is quarterback 14 and only going 3 draft spots behind. So you got one. I got one. We're even.
You've set the precedent now. So Baker Mayfield, I think, is a guy where there's questions to be answered about that offense as a general. Will Baker bounce back to how we saw him in his rookie year? We've got OBJ there, who undoubtedly is one of the most talented guys in the league, but hasn't done it for a number of years now. I've seen a good metric that the blonder that OBJ is in the season, the more fantasy points he puts out. And obviously this year is the blondest he's ever been. So I'm expecting a big year from OBJ purely for that reason. So Baker Mayfield is, of course, thrown to him. But how intent are the Browns on running the ball this year? They've brought in Austin Hooper. They're going to play a lot of the 12 personnel with Njoku and Hooper so that they can effectively block for Chubb. So I just question how many times that Baker's going to get to throw the ball. And what I want to do is I want to watch the Cleveland Browns from a distance for the first couple of weeks of the season, just to see how it plays out, just to see how much form Baker Mayfield's in. And yeah, if I've drafted him in the lower rounds of the league, if it's clear that Baker's not on form, that the Browns are running the football, I don't feel bad about dropping him. However, he will be there as a streaming option if all of a sudden the Browns do pick up and they start to pass the ball like they can do, because the receiving options they've got there, Landry, Beckham, Hunt, the 2 tight ends that we've mentioned, it's a great bunch of people to be throwing the ball to.
I'm going to give you another streaming option that might not be a streaming option by the time you want to use them as a streaming option.
Okay.
That is Ryan Fitzpatrick. We assume that he's going to start the job as quarterback, or start the season as the quarterback with the job. So, but his first 2 weeks, he plays New England and Buffalo. I say no, thank you, sir. I don't want any part of that. But there's people who will remember him from last season, draft him, hoping he gets those big boom weeks, and then toss him in the scrap heap. After that, he plays Jacksonville, which used to be scary, but isn't looking super scary anymore because nobody wants to play on their team anymore. Plays Seattle. He has some weeks. So if he's still the quarterback and he has a nice matchup, that's a guy you can take. But you got to be careful. Definitely don't draft him. So that was more of a don't draft the guy as your streamer early on, as your week 1, week 2, week 3 streamer. So, yeah, don't draft. Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier in the show, Tua will be taking the keys to that job at some point. So you've got to play that so carefully. You've got to just make sure. And with Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's a chance to be sneaky in your league. It's a chance. You've got a couple of good weeks out of them, particularly
You said Tyrod?
Yes, yeah. So you've got that chance there to perhaps trade them to a guy that's perhaps in your league that's not quite as savvy as you. Let's have a good couple of weeks out of them, and before the starter changes, let's get them traded. That's
So to add to what you're saying right there. So let's say you grab Tyrod, however you feel like saying it, and you got a league that trades, but maybe not the savviest, and you want to do a little child abuse here. Actually, that's probably not a nice phrase, but you know what I'm saying. Team abuse. He plays Cincinnati in week 1, who should be a great matchup for him, and then hopefully, you find a guy who took someone who didn't just do so hot, and you can flip him on the quick there. After that, he plays KC, which could still be a nice opportunity. That defense is getting stronger, but he's gonna have to throw the ball like a beast against KC. So if you can get 2 good weeks out of Taylor, and then trade him for a running back, upgrade, trade Taylor and a running back, or Taylor and a wide receiver over just some other guy, get an upgrade at one of those 2 real positions, take back his crappy quarterback he doesn't want, or the worst guy on his roster, or just don't take anybody. Some people can't function mentally without even player trades. And then either go pick up someone to fill that, the spot, just go stream the next guy, basically is what I'm saying. And then you can be a little swindler like that. That's a nice little move. It only works a few times.
Oh yeah, as soon as your league mates catch on, yeah.
The league mates are like, wait a minute. But that's a nice little sneaky one with Tyrod Taylor there. I like that. Let's see, who do I want to talk about? Goff could be on my list, but I am big on Gardner Minshew. He can be drafted in the 17th round.
Yeah.
How many leagues are you in on redraft that are 17 rounds? I'm going to guess none, unless you're playing IDP. If you're just playing your standard leagues, probably not too many, especially without kickers or defense.
No, yeah. The one I'm in, my home league this weekend, it's our draft, and that is 17, but we have got kickers and defense in there, so it's kind of cheating a little bit. So
yeah, we went 16 rounds, no kickers, no defenses, 3 flexes, so it was fairly deep. We were scrubbing the back. People were taking stickers and writing names on them. 1 or 2. So, which I said thank you for that, because I don't need that guy in my way. But Gardner Minshew is a guy that should be chucking the ball a lot, as you kind of already alluded to earlier, and he can be gotten full free in leagues. And if he fails you just cut him. Just cut him. Not the end of the world. Let's get one more from you and one more from me, and we'll call this.
Okay, so my last one, and it's one of those players where there seems to be a lot of hype about him heading into the season after what we saw at the back end of last season.
Oh, you son of a mother. Hey, hold on. Just tell me this. Hold on. Just tell me this. Does he play Tennessee for the first game? You'd have to check. Well, I'll tell you this. The guy I'm looking at plays Tennessee. Who's your guy?
Judging by the cap, judging by the jersey in the background, and coupling that with your reaction, I'm going to assume that you were going to go for Drew Lock.
I was.
Yeah, so Drew Lock, there's been so much hype about him heading into the season after what we saw. Obviously, the Broncos just said, right, we are just going to give him all of the toys in the toy box in the draft just gone. Most notably, Jerry Jeudy in the first round. So he's going to have a lot of weapons to play with. Denver just said, look, we're going to make this offense work this year. We're going to try and keep up with KC, so we're going to have some fun. And he is still being drafted as the quarterback 24 in fantasy football drafts, which, again, like you say, like with Gardner Minshew, that's free. He's not going to really, unless you're playing in a deeper league or obviously a super flex league, he's not going to get drafted. So you're going to be able to pick him up at some points throughout the season, and he's going to score you points. I'm not 100% bought in because it was only a small sample size last year, but certainly there's enough weapons to be playing with in that offense for him to have some fun some weeks and to really blow up.
Well, and something else that helps is that, you know, the divisional thing every 4 years switches. They're playing this year the Saints, the Falcons, that division. Who the hell's the other third high scoring team in there?
Bucks.
Tampa Bay. Yeah, the Bucks. So they're playing that division. Plus, in their own division, they have KC. The Raiders are trying to equip themselves to be a high-flying team. So is the Broncos, but we'll see. So they're just playing some teams that they should have to really put up a lot of points to even stay in the game.
Yeah.
So that should lead to him having an opportunity to really show off. So, yeah, he stole my guy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right. So he probably wasn't even your guy. You're like, oh, he's wearing a Broncos hat. No. All right. So I'm going to go with the guy that you can stream for a week or two, and then you might have to cut for multiple reasons. But if he wins you a week, he might be worth saving a spot for. Although his matches when he comes back aren't fantastic. You can draft him in the 14th round. So to me, that's late enough to draft him. I think the hype, if you have a really late draft and a few more good things happen, I think the hype could get a little bit higher on him. But that's Cam Newton. Do we know he's healthy? Do we know he's not healthy? He seems to be healthy, and we like that, right? So if you remember Cam Newton, the guy can play some football. The guy can run. The guy can score touchdowns. And his wide receiver core, N'Keal Harry, might be good. Edelman is great for some short passes. He's got a running back out of the backfield that likes to catch passes. He just has this nebulous of meh going on around him, right? Tight ends, meh. It's just nothing that's amazing around him that just stands out as let's go, let's do this. But tell me the last time in Carolina he had a great team around him.
Exactly.
Short of McCaffrey.
Yeah.
You know, he really hasn't. So he's gotten it done, and maybe that's why he's gotten it done with his legs so much, because he's had to. I don't know. You know, you could say that, right? But if I draft him in the 14th round there, or whatever I said, or even the 13th, or even the 12th round, because I feel like quarterbacks are starting to come off the board. All right, cool. And then if I need to grab a super streamer after him, grab Derek Carr for some bye week fill-ins. Sam Darnold, who's almost free, for some bye week fill-ins. You can do that easy. So he's a guy that could have some beautiful upside for you. Use him for a little tryout for the beginning of the season and see how his first two games go. The first game he's playing, it's against Miami, I think, if I'm not correct. Cam Newton schedule. He plays Miami in week one. Now, they've improved their defense. They are a better team.
But nobody knows what that Patriots offense is going to look like, because obviously if anyone can scheme and find a way to build Cam Newton into their offense, it's going to be Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. So a really interesting one to see there. And I'm a believer of, I don't think they'll have brought him in if he's not going to be named the week one starter. Of course, we've got Jared Stidham there, who some people are saying, yes, but he's the quarterback. They've only brought Cam in as no, of course, you're not going to bring in a former MVP just for a camp battle. So I believe that they've brought him in to be the quarterback, and they're gonna scheme around him. We're not quite sure what we're going to see. People are questioning his shoulder, but if you go back and look at the tape from the start of last year, he was actually overthrowing his receivers. So I don't believe there's any issues with the arm strength there. Right. So it all depends what his rushing legs are like for me. It all depends how many touchdowns he's going to get on the ground. And I'm not for a second saying that James White is the running back that Christian McCaffrey is, but he's still going to dump those passes off to him out the backfield. And James White has got enough talent to make things happen. So it's going to be an exciting offense to see. And Cam Newton isn't being drafted as a top 12 quarterback because we don't know what to expect, but certainly a great streaming option.
And, he's looking to prove himself. His coach is looking to prove that they can win games. So, so Miami, Seattle, the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Broncos. I don't know if I worry too much about any of those defenses until you get to the Broncos. And by week 5, what we think is a great Broncos defense hopefully isn't or is a great defense for the Broncos, but you'll know better. You look at defensive matchups and stuff like that. They're very shaky to begin the season. It takes a few weeks to find out. The first week is random. Second week, okay. By the third week, we're starting to build trends. Yeah. So by week 5, is Denver's defense really scary? To be determined. Kansas City, also to be determined. But Cam's going to have to put up some points against that team. So I'd even play him against a hard defense. So, that was kind of fun. Throwing some players out there that we like and can help people stream. And maybe you already had your draft, but these are guys to keep your eye on, keep your note sheet going for during the season. So I like it. That was fun.
Definitely. Yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for coming on the show. What time is it over there on the other side of the pond?
It's 10 to 7 in the evening. So we're just thinking about the sun going down, getting into the evening now. So just about to go have my tea, as we call it. You probably call it dinner over there. Your third meal of the day.
Yeah, I got my tea over here. A little unofficial sponsor.
No, sorry. Tea is the third meal of the day.
Boo. All right. So remind everybody where your work can be found, both on the Twitter and on the internet for us, would you?
So I am part of the crew at the Full 10 Yards. So I head up our fantasy division. If you head over to www.full10yards.com, you can see loads of great content going up there from all of our different divisions, including the fantasy, NFL, college, and Britball. And we have got some very exciting news dropping very, very shortly, which you need to keep your eyes out for. So, keep heading over to the page because we've been working on something for quite some time now, which we're very proud of, which will be dropping very, very shortly. So for fantasy, head over to @F10Y Fantasy and for all of the hottest takes, etc., etc.
Nice. All right, I love it. So I can be found on Twitter at Bob's Three Toed Warriors, on the YouTube on Bob's Three Toed Warriors. Excuse me. Twitter is at Bob's Three Toed. I always get those two backwards. I wish Twitter would give me more letters so I could just say the Warriors part and make my whole thing work. I have to confuse myself almost every time I say it. But, we figure by show not 35, I'll have it down sooner or later. So whatever. So scheduling changes are coming soon. The Tuesday live streams are a great amount of fun, and you can catch replay on Saturdays. And soon, instead of just having Monday and Thursday drops of shows, we'll have Tuesday morning drops with your waiver wires on there, and we'll have Thursday and Friday drops with your sit starts and those kind of things, and who to put in your lineups. So we want to help you win some leagues. I keep saying we. I don't know why I keep saying we. I don't know. Maybe if you've heard this episode, there's an announcement coming soon in the forward and the back. I don't know. You have to figure it out. But it's all for this show. It's been Bob's Three Toed Warriors with David. Remind you, soon enough, you'll be able to hit the waiver wire, set your lineups, and dominate your opponents. But until then, we'll see you. I cut David off. Oh, no. Give it to him, David.